Hey everyone, welcome to the channel for another Escape From Tarkov video, featuring some more weapon builds, this time taking a look at a few barter trades that you can use to make some effective, high-end builds and save a little bit of cash in the process. Barter trades are all over the place in Tarkov, ranging from ridiculously good deals that you can't pass up, to crazy overpriced nonsense that absolutely nobody would ever purchase. On top of this, the devs seem to be on a hot streak of changing barter trades without any notification lately, so it can be hard to sort out what's worth it, what you should just skip, and what's a pretty good deal so long as the flea market is cooperating with the price that day. For this video, I've got 4 builds lined up, all focusing on fairly high-end setups, but I'll be following this up with a budget-focused barter trade video in the future. So with that intro out of the way, let's take a look at the builds, starting off with a pretty solid barter trade for one of my favorite weapons in the game, the SA-58. The SA-58 actually has a ton of different barter trades in the game, for everything from the base version to a mid-tier setup, a shortened FAL, and even a somewhat meta build. Personally, I don't really find the trade is worth it for the base version or the 2 trades that require weapon parts, since you either need to craft a bunch of weapon parts slowly or spend enough to buy them on the market that it negates the whole purpose of the barter build in the first place. There is one SA-58 trade at mechanic level 4 that is quite nice though, and that requires 4 Nixor camera lenses in exchange for a full-length SA-58 with some mods, including the hybrid 46 suppressor, which makes this whole trade worthwhile. The camera lenses sell for around 20 to 30,000 rubles each on the flea market, so the base trade varies a little bit in price, but if you remove the suppressor, stock, and handguard to sell to mechanic, you get 58,000 rubles back in your pockets to upgrade the build. First up, I add the Lantac blast mitigation combo as the muzzle device, requiring the direct thread adapter, the blast mitigation device, and the dragon compensator. Next, I add the CASV FAL handguard to replace the M-Lock handguard that was on from the trade, which adds to the stats pretty nicely. This handguard needs special CASV rails, so after adding those, you can either keep the foregrip off of the barter trade, or alternatively purchase the RK1 foregrip for a little extra recoil control, which is my preference. For the tactical device, I always add an X400 flashlight, and I'll be including the price of this in all of my builds, but you can swap this out if you prefer something else. For the sight, the trade already comes with the rail dust cover, which is pretty convenient, so I just add the LaRue tactical Picatinny riser to get the sight up above the muzzle flash a little bit, and then I generally like to stick with an EOTech hollow sight for most of my builds unless I'm out there doing long range gunfights. Finally, the last part you need to swap out on this build is the stock, and I stick with the SA-58 BRS stock, which has great stats for the price, and it's a pretty solid choice on any SA-58 build. The trade already comes with the sight mount and the best pistol grip, so these are the only additions you need to make. When it's all put together, this build ends up with 77 vertical recoil and about 30 ergonomics for a total cost of only around 150,000 rubles, though this might change a little bit depending on the price of the Nixor lenses for the trade. I really like the value of this setup since it saves you at least 40,000 or so on a pretty solid SA-58 build. If you can get the weapon parts for cheap, those other trades are pretty nice as well, but personally I really like the Nixor trade to save a bit of money on a good FAL build. Next up for this video, we'll be taking a look at another barter trade for a big 7.62 rifle, the M1A, which like the SA-58 is one of my all-time favorites in Tarkov because of the raw damage that it brings to any fight. The barter trade in question is at mechanic level 3 and requires 18 packs of Wilston cigarettes in exchange for an M1A with a longer barrel and the best in slot SASS chassis, which is the undisputed best way to run the M1A. This barter works well no matter how you do it. You can buy all of the Wilstons and the price is about 99,000 rubles. You can craft them in the nutrition station, and they're also quite common to find in raids if you pay attention and just pick them up every now and then. You can purchase this same setup from mechanic level 4, but you save at least 20,000 rubles if you simply make the trade, plus it's available 10 levels earlier if you do the trade. Once I get the trade completed, I add the same 3-piece Lantac muzzle combo from the SA-58 build, the direct thread adapter, blast mitigation device, and finally the Lantac dragon compensator. Your choices for the grip are pretty wide open, and you can use basically whatever you prefer here, but sticking with the theme of saving money on the build, I like to go with the Magpul RVG foregrip in the tan color, which has a nice price and pretty balanced stats in both categories. For the sight, I'm sticking with an EOTech hollow sight, but this build also works great with longer range optics like an Elcan, Valde, or whatever you prefer, but that'll make the price quite a bit higher. To finish off the build, you just need to change the stock up a bit, starting with the Mesa Tactical Buffer Tube from Peacekeeper level 4, which adds quite a bit of recoil control to the build overall. Finally, the last part you need for this is the Magpul rubber butt pad for the carbine stocks. Since the barter trade already comes with the MOE stock equipped, all you need is the rubber pad and the build is done. When it's all put together, this build ends up with 50 recoil and around 45 ergonomics for a total cost of around 200,000 rubles, which is still a bit of an investment, but definitely less expensive than it would be if you built this whole thing from the ground up. The next barter trade I want to point out for you is the MPX at Peacekeeper level 1, which requires 7 dog tags of at least level 8 in exchange for just the basic MPX. This trade is a hard one to put a concrete value to, because if you trade high level dog tags, it can be really not worth it, but if you save a few low level dog tags from hatchet runners or pistol runners for the trade, it really is a great value. Once you get the trade done, there's just a few things you need to add and the build is basically ready to go. I definitely enjoy the standard short MPX build for close range fights, and in general the longer barrels and extra parts aren't really that crucial overall. To start off, I swapped the basic muzzle device out for one of 2 suppressors. First, the Rotor 43 9x19 suppressor is the best budget option by far, costing only about 10 to 15,000 rubles for a decent suppressor. The other option you want to consider is the Osprey 9mm suppressor, which is only about 30,000 rubles, but it doubles your recoil control compared to the Rotor, so it's your call which one that you want to use. Next, I add the Zenit RK5 foregrip as a way to get some extra recoil control for a cheap price, and the X400 flashlight as my tactical device. For the sight, I just use the Cobra reflex sight with the sight shade as a budget option, but this can be swapped for whatever you prefer. Finally, the last part that I add to this simple build is the PMM ULSS stock, which is a fairly cheap part to upgrade the recoil stats on the MPX. When this is all set up, you got 37 recoil with the Rotor suppressor or 34 with the Osprey suppressor, and about 42 ergonomics, for a total cost of the 7 dog tags, plus 40 to 50,000 rubles in extra parts depending on which suppressor you use. It's a fairly simple setup, but I really like using this one as a secondary alongside snipers, or even as a primary weapon on close range maps when I'm running budget loadouts. For the last build in this video, we'll be taking a look at the LVOA M4 trade at mechanic level 3, which requires 4 GP coins in exchange for an M4A1 with the LVOA handguard, rails, a Raptor charging handle, and the best in slot upper receiver. This trade is a tricky one because sometimes the price of the GP coins on the market can fluctuate by a lot, but if you can get them at the ideal price of around 25 to 30,000 rubles, the trade is pretty good simply because of the handguard and the MUR1S receiver. GP coins are also fairly common if you loot safes, so it's not too hard to pick up 4 coins out in the raid to make the trade. All things considered, if you can get the coins for the right price, the trade is pretty nice, but I wouldn't buy the coins for more than 35,000 rubles for this one. Once you get the trade done, my first addition is the KAC NT4 suppressor, which goes for about 25 to 30,000 rubles on the market and attaches right to the KAC compensator that comes with the trade. Next, the handguard already comes with rails attached, so I add the Zenit RK5 foregrip and an X400 flashlight to my build, that you can swap these for whatever you prefer. Another addition that helps to improve the stats for pretty cheap is the JP Gas System 5B, which adds recoil control for only about 8,000 rubles at mechanic level 4. For the sight, I'm just sticking with an EOTech hollow sight for this one, but you can swap this for your preferred option. The final parts that I add to this build starts with the SI Advanced Buffer Tube, which helps with the overall recoil and ergonomics. Next, I add the MOE carbine stock plus the rubber butt pad attachment, which is my preferred choice when building M4s. When this build is all put together, you get 44 recoil and about 64 ergonomics for a total cost of around 215,000 rubles, as long as the GP coins are going for a good price on the market. I've had a lot of requests to discuss this barter trade in a build video, and overall, I do think it's worth it since you can save about 30,000 rubles on the full build. However, it's not my favorite since the GP coins are used in a ton of different barter trades, and it can be pretty annoying when they spike in price right when you want to go do this trade. Well, that pretty much covers it for these barter trade builds. Hopefully you can take advantage of them to save a bit of cash on some nice weapon setups, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on these builds as well as your own favorite weapon barter trades. Given how quickly all the barters are being shuffled around lately, these may be subject to change, and some nice new ones might even pop up in the future. So stay tuned for a follow-up to this one, including some more budget-focused barter trades. Thanks for checking out the video. I've got links to my Twitch stream, Discord channel, and Patreon page down below for anyone interested. And until next time, stay safe in Tarkov City.